Welcome back. Over to the big presidential elections in the US this year. The 2024 GOP convention came to a close earlier today with former President Donald Trump formally accepting his party's nomination just 5 days after surviving an assassination attempt. With a reminder of how he is, quote, not supposed to be here, Trump recounted the assassination bid on him. He batted for unity despite the political violence against him, but also stuck to the rest of his election agenda that has been called divisive by opponents. Issues like, quote, the invasion of the southern border found mention in his speech. Melania Trump also made a rare public appearance, joining her husband on stage along with other family members. Let's take you through some of the highlights of Trump's speech. While speaking on the assassination bid, he said the bullet missed him only because he leaned forward seconds before the shot was fired. He also added that he felt that God was on his side. Trump laid down his vision for America. He said he will bring economic relief and lower inflation. He also promised to restore law and order in the country. In his first speech after choosing J.D. Vance as his running mate, Trump said he will be a great vice president and also called Vance and his Indian origin wife, Usha, a smart couple. So is it Abki Baar Trump Sarkar all over again in the US? Let's tell you a little bit of what pollsters are suggesting as it stands. In the 7 battleground states, pollsters are giving Donald Trump the edge as far as betting odds are concerned. Trump is leading by anywhere from 6 to 2 points in most of the prominent polls. There is only one prominent poll that showed a 2-point lead for Biden, while one showed them tied. But in the more recently updated ones, updated as latest as yesterday, Trump is clearly ahead. So the big question we take to our guest joining us in just a bit is it a done deal for a Trump Sarkar?
In the longest convention address in modern American history,
Candidate for Lieutenant Governor in Virginia, Peter Kuznick is author and professor at American University. I thank both of you for your time. Puneet, why don't I begin with you? The big question that many are wondering is Trump now truly acceptable to the entire wider Republican base? What is your sense?
Well, he has not only to the Republican base, but to most Americans, because they see the tenacity and the vision of a man who has strong faith in God. And most importantly, he has also chosen a young, bright man as his vice president who is married to Indian American Usha and also happens to be Hindu American. And he's laid out his vision very clearly and said it's not for half of America, but all of America. He recited the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, and importantly highlighted the issues that are the problems that we are having in this country, from immigration to jobs being outsourced, along with the crisis. And the crisis there on the Democratic side, because the entire Democratic Party is in disarray, because Biden has failed, and most importantly, it's incompetent. And there's chaos there. And that's the force I see coming out of this convention, that people are mobilized and ready to go and win the White House in the election. And not only the White House, but also the Congress.
And is that particularly because of that assassination bid? How has that changed the mood within the Republican base and the rest of the country, you think?
What happens is when you have to realize most Americans, including the people who immigrated, are very strongly faith-based. And this came so close to him losing his life that it was millimeters away. And only people who can feel see in the face of death. And also, if you see the tone of President Trump, it's far more talking about unity and reaching out and talking about all of America. And people who are in business are concerned about the inflation, the economy issue, the defunding of police, which the Democrats have been beating the drum on. So they are fundamental issues, which are kitchen table issues, which Trump is highlighting, and most importantly, drill baby drill, or have our economic and financial independence, as most importantly, energy independence, is what Trump is trying to get back to here.
Yeah, he did talk about unity, but there is some criticism that the rest of his speech was the pure rhetoric that has come from him earlier as well. Puneet, I'll come back to you for more on that. I want to go across to Peter as well. Peter, the Republicans do often say that the world was a safer place under Trump, certainly in comparison to Biden's term. Do you think they have a point here?
First of all, Trump stresses the crime in America, his American carnage theme. Crime is way down in America. It's not up. Globally, the world is very, very dangerous. And that's part of the reason why I'm so critical of Biden. Under Trump, Trump says the world was so peaceful under him. There was wars everywhere going on. This was not a peaceful world, but what we have now are two major wars of a degree and dimension that didn't exist under Trump. We've got the war in Gaza, and we've got an intensification of the situation in Ukraine, both of which are very, very dangerous. Now, when it comes to Trump, he claims that he's going to tamp down and end the war in Ukraine. But if anything, he would reinforce the Israeli assault on Gaza, which is very, very unpopular in the United States and globally. And he would provoke China even more than Biden has been doing. Biden was a disappointment. When Biden came to office, many of us hoped he would break definitively with Trump policy when it came to China and when it came to Ukraine. But that didn't happen.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you, do you feel there is still time for Biden, or it's time up for him?
Biden is finished. There is no question that Biden is out of this race. And that's a good thing for the Democrats right now. Clearly, if he stayed in the race, the Democrats would have gotten slaughtered in November. If you get a new
he's not backing out, Peter.
He's backing out, yes. He's very stubborn. He's very narcissistic, like Trump is. And he thinks of himself as the only one who can lead the party. But the American people, more than 80% of the American people, think that he is not capable of being president any longer. More and more doctors are coming out publicly now. Biden, the problem is he's in this little cocoon. We've got the 81-year-old narcissist who listens to his wife, who's a community college English teacher, and his son, who's a convicted felon and former drug addict. And those are the people who are determining the future of the United States and the world right now. So that's good. That's finished. Obama's come out, Schumer's come out, Pelosi's come out, Jeffries has come out. I mean, Biden can be as stubborn as he wants, but his time is up.
Okay, we'll wait and see if that decision is formally announced. But given what Peter is saying, and Puneet, you heard he disagrees a little bit with what Trump stands for as well. But given how even he's describing Biden, is there a sense amongst constituents like you that this is a done deal now, that Trump Sarkar is coming back?
Shivani, I'll say one thing. In politics, anything can change in 15 days to 30 days. It's always very critical. And one wrong move or wrong statement can change the entire paradigm, just the way one missed bullet, thank God for that, has changed the entire campaign for Trump and the Republicans, which have made us more mobilized. But I do agree with Peter on the disarray and the confusion that is existing in Democratic Party, and changing the horse midstream, and especially now it's very hard, and especially it'll be very likely Kamala Harris who's going to come in because there's nobody else who can inherit the war chest of the Democratic or Biden presidential election. So yes, there is going to be chaos, but you also realize that people start focusing on election in the last 30 to 45 days. And again, it'll be the kitchen table issues. And I'll also want to disagree with Peter. There are laws which are not being enforced by the prosecutors, which are liberal prosecutors who have got elected to the county positions. And what it is our police are catching and releasing these criminals. And that's the problem we have. And that's the reason folks like myself chose to run for office, because we see the small business community, which happens to be large Asian American and the migrant communities, are suffering because you don't prosecute crime. And you can see all the things that are going in our schools where the teachers are making the decision and keeping the parents or the parental rights are being also challenged by liberal prosecutors and by liberal leadership.
Okay.
So
No, crime in itself is
community.
crime in itself, unfortunately, is a whole debate, and we could debate this as long as we liked. But I do want to ask you, Puneet, that there is a section that has found Trump to be divisive, excessively rhetorical, even below the belt when it comes to comments against people that he's talking about. And there is criticism that didn't really change yesterday or earlier today.
Shivani, one thing is that you can't change Trump at this age and stage, even though he's seen and had a word with God. And that's very emotional and powerful. In fact, he said, I'm here through God's will. But he's straight. At least you know what he stands for. He's going to call you out and tell you what is right and what's wrong. When he talks about unity, he truly means unity. So you have to take him for the word for it. Why are we ignoring that part of being an American, of being a leader for all of America, not half of America, and at the same time talking about uniting? And prosperity and a great economy helps all Americans.
Peter is shaking his head. Why is that, Peter?
Trump was a unifier for 17 minutes. He was the old divisive Trump for more than an hour. He can't help himself. This is the most divisive political figure in American history.
Peter, when they have had their life given back to them, you will see that he'll go down in history as one of the greatest presidents the United States have had, and we will have less war and promote more peace. We'll try to get our Wall Street Journal journalists back from... Yeah, we're going to get our Wall Street Journal journalists back from Russia. These are things which we want to happen.
Peter, yes.
As a historian, I can tell you one thing. Trump is going down as the worst president in history. American historians, almost unanimously consider Trump to be the worst president in American history, not a great president. And his claims that Biden is the worst president, as Trump likes to say, I'm enormously critical of Biden, but his domestic policy has been fairly successful. I think his foreign policy is a disaster.
Okay. But Peter, can I ask you very quickly? I've got limited time. This whole thing about being the victim of political violence, there is rhetoric and there is statements, but Trump has actually faced political violence and an assassination bid that hasn't happened in America for decades. Do you think that there's something basic about that amongst the American public that just does not stand for that, and even those who may not like Trump will have sympathy for him?
I think there is universal sympathy for Trump as being the victim of violence, and we all were happy that that bullet missed him. But for all those who think he was saved by God, there are an equal number, a greater number, who think he was saved by Satan. So it depends on which side you want to look at it. Now Trump has got a threshold of a little bit more than 45%. The fact that Biden is so weak, so inept, so incompetent, and that Trump is barely beating him, that is still within the margin of error, I think the Republicans should not be so enthusiastic and confident as they seem to be. They should be concerned that if you get a competent, more progressive, younger, vibrant Democrat running, Trump is going to be defeated in this election. And now the question is he ever going to admit that he was defeated? If that occurs, it's going to become a very close election again. And I think the Democrats will have the advantage if they pick the right person, which does not mean Kamala Harris, sadly. She has not distinguished herself, but there are other Democrats who would really give the Republicans more than a run for their money in this election.
All right. Is it too late for that, though, is the question that some are asking. It was a pleasure having both of you on the show. I do thank you for joining us and sparing your time. Let's talk a little bit about Biden, because the Democratic National Committee has announced plans to hold a virtual roll call to officially nominate President Joe Biden as the party's candidate for the upcoming election as well for the first week of August. Now, this is happening even as a growing faction of House Democrats are wary and are raising concerns against him.